Okay, so sometimes when you're working with fractions, it can be easier to use a decimal or a percentage. So today we're going to look at converting fractions into decimals and percentages. So let's start off with a fraction to a decimal. The method here is to do the division. For example, if you have the fraction 3/5, what this represents is the sum 3 divided by 5. Now, division is not commutative, so that means you do not get to decide the order here. It has to be the top, the numerator, divided by the bottom, the denominator. Top divided by bottom. So you could do that on a calculator, or you could make life a little bit more interesting and you could try and do it without a calculator. So I set up my division sum for 3 divided by 5, but this actually won't help at all. How many 5s can I fit into 3? None. So what can I do now? Well, 3 is the same as 3.0, and since 3 divided by 5 is none, remainder 3, I can now think of this as 30 divided by 5, which is going to give me a 6. Decimal points line up. There's no remainder left over, and I'm done. 3/5 as a decimal is 3 divided by 5, which is 0.6. Another method you can use is equivalent fractions. So if I take my same 3/5 again, I can scale this up into a fraction over 10. What did I have to times the 5 by to turn it into 10? 2. And whatever I do to the bottom of the fraction, I have to do to the top, so I'm going to times this by 2 as well. And I've got the equivalent fraction 6 over 10, which is also 6/10. And if you think about your place value columns, there is a tenths column that we can put this in. So I've got no units or ones, and in the tenths column I've got 6/10. This equivalent fraction method works particularly well if the denominator of your fraction can easily be multiplied to give 10, 100, 1,000, like say 4/25. I can scale this up to a fraction over 100. What did I have to times the 25 by? 4. So I do the same to the top and I get 16. And having 16 hundredths, or 16 divided by 100, is going to look like this. So two methods, doing the division, which works for any fraction, turning it into a decimal, or if you notice that the denominator of your fraction can easily be scaled up to 10, 100,000, then equivalent fractions is your second method. Take just a second on these sums here and decide which of these methods you would use. So for the equivalent fractions method, I would use that for this one, and this one. And I would do the division for this one, and this one. Although you could use the equivalent fractions method for this one as well, that's just personal choice. So have a go at it, pause the video and check back in a second for the answers. And finally this one here, 2/3. Okay, this is a fun one. So we're gonna have to do the division. 2 being divided by 3. Okay, I'm gonna give myself a few zeros to start off with. Let's see if you can see what's gonna happen here. So 2 divided by 3 is none, and the remainder is 2. How many 3s into 20 is gonna be 6, and the remainder is 2. Okay, how many 3s into 20? Another 6, and the remainder is 2. And how many 3s into 20? Another 6, and the remainder is going to keep being 2, and I'm just going to keep having 6s all the way along. So this is 0.6666666, which is 0.6 recurring, and we can write that by 0.6 with a little dot on top. Okay, now we're going to look at converting these fractions into percentages, and the good news is we've already done the hard work. If you want to turn a fraction into a percentage, the best thing to do is to go from a fraction to a decimal, and then if you take that decimal and times by 100, you will have your percentage, but make sure you remember the percent sign. So for example here, 3/5, once we'd worked out that that was 0.6, it's nice and easy to say that that will be 60%. 4/25, well, we turned this into 16 over 100, that's 16 out of 100, so you can already say straight from there that that's going to be 16%. Have a go with the decimals that we've just done, multiplying them by 100 and remembering that percentage sign. Ready for the answers? 3, 2, 1. Okay, so our 0.9 is now 90%, our 0.75 is 75%, 17 over 50, which became 0.34, 34 over 100, is now 34%, 28 over 200 became 14 over 100, which you can go straight to being 14%, and this one's quite fun. Our 3 over 8 was 0.375, which goes into the thousandths column. And so when you times this by 100, you still have a decimal. It's going to be 37.5%. It is okay to have a decimal amount of percent. And then lastly, our 2/3, which became the recurring decimal, 0.6 recurring. When you turn this into a percentage or times by 100, you get 66 point, and you still have all of those sixes recurring, which you can write as 66.6 recurring percent, or you will sometimes see this as 66 and 2/3%. So to recap, we've got two methods for converting fractions into decimals: either do the division or create an equivalent fraction with a power of 10 as the denominator. And if you want to go from a fraction to a percentage, first convert that fraction into a decimal and then times by 100 to get the percentage. Have fun!